Great. Thank you so much. So again, welcome everyone to the Workers Memorial Week teach-in. We started very early. I know we're just starting this beautiful month of February. It's also Black History Month. We're really excited to be coming together to continue to support our working communities, worker leaders in our network, and being proactive in reaching some of the most impacted worker communities, as we all know, heavily impacting Black and Brown workers throughout this country. So with that said, I'm going to just skip through these slides because we've already went through the interpretation. I want to remind folks about today's goals, why we're here today. Every year annually, we use Workers' Memorial Week to be able to amplify our issues as workers, to amplify our campaigns, and to re-energize ourselves in again taking action and calling for a stop to worker fatalities and injuries. So what we're hoping to get out of this session today is, one, to prepare ourselves for an impactful Workers' Memorial Week of Action. Workers' Memorial Week of Action is typically the week of April, at the end of April, April 28th. And it's also an opportunity in today's session to become familiar with resources and tools that support your local events and campaigns. So if you've never been involved with Workers' Memorial Week, or have never attended an event, we're hoping that when you come out of this session today, you will be inspired to take action, to say, maybe I will start a Workers' Memorial Week action, do a small event, maybe have folks become familiar with Workers' Memorial Week is, and also connected to your current campaigns and actions. If you've already done Workers' Memorial Week, we hope that you come out of here feeling inspired to try new ideas, to refresh yourselves on what are the resources that National COSH can offer to you to make this program a success. Finally, what we'll do in today's session, it is a 90-minute session. We hope everyone could stay for the full 90 minutes. We will be having small group breakouts at the end to share what our plans are regionally and locally, after we share some examples, resources, and so forth. So that is what our goals for today's session are. As for an agenda, again, we will do a quick overview with our team at National COSH of what Workers' Memorial Week is, why we do it, how we do it. We'll have someone from our team also do an overview of the resources and tools that you can use. All our resources, again, available in English and Spanish. And then we'll also jump into some examples from our local network. We are a network of 26 local COSH groups and worker centers across the country, and we've invited two of our affiliates to come and talk a little bit about what they do locally to make Workers' Memorial Week a success, but also to mobilize their worker members. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll work into small groups, and we have a couple of really important announcements at the very end. So we, again, really encourage you to stay till the very end. So with that said, I'm now going to pass it over to my colleague, Peter Dooley, who will talk a little bit about what is it and why we do Workers' Memorial Week. Peter?
Thanks, Jessica. And it's an honor to be here with everyone and just to share a little bit about sort of the history and what we do during Worker Memorial Week. For one thing, Worker Memorial Week has played a really important part of our movement for worker health and safety rights. And it's been in place for about 35 years. And it's really sort of grown in so many ways, become international. And it's also moved from being more just memorializing to, as Jessica mentioned, a week of action. So it's a time when we can really stress the preventable nature of these workplace illnesses and injuries. So it really gives us an opportunity to highlight what needs to be done to improve worker health and safety, and also to call the attention that worker injuries and illnesses aren't the fault of workers. A lot of employers, stress that when things go wrong in the workplace and workers get injured or made ill, it's workers that have made mistakes. And so we need to call attention that it's the employer's responsibility to be providing a workplace health and safety. Injuries and illnesses only happen when employers don't provide a safe workplace. So next slide. There's lots of ways that people can be involved in Worker Memorial Week, right? Here's just some examples of events that have happened in our network, and it's really an opportunity to call public attention to these preventable injuries and illnesses. And there's also lots of ways that we try to improve specific workplaces. Workers can organize themselves to take collective action, to demand improvements in their workplace health and safety conditions. So there's all kinds of ways that people can be involved in Worker Memorial Week, and the more that we do it collectively and together, that's really the way in which we really build this Worker Memorial events around the world. So next slide. And here's just again some examples of how of how we have public events, and also that we also during this week we come out with our Dirty Dozen list of workplaces that are nationally known as being really bad actors in health and safety. And so you'll be hearing more about that event that will be coming up, and be able to participate in that. So this next slide highlights some of the materials that are available, which again you'll be hearing more about in terms of what's available on the website, and all ways that we can be formulating not only materials that are meant for public, to get public attention to this issue, but also ways that we can, again, have specific demands for workplace improvements in specific workplaces. So you'll be hearing more about that. So one of the big demands that we are sort of having out as a theme for this year is workplace health and safety committees, worker health and safety committees, both regional areas like for planning worker memorial events, as well as in workplaces. And so this is a great way that's happening all around the country, and this is one of the specific health and safety sort of organizing efforts that came to light during the pandemic. Sort of the way in which workers were being exposed to such dangerous conditions really helped motivate more organizing and more mobilization of our movement to fight back. And so workplace health and safety committees are really happening around the country, and we're really pressing for health and safety committees in every region and every workplace. Next slide. So one of the major ways that we get our stories out during Worker Memorial Week is by highlighting specific tragic cases that we've become aware of in our regions and around the country. And these stories are best told by the people who are most directly affected, namely families of workers who have been killed in the workplace. And literally, we say that their lives were stolen by sort of by these hazardous workplace conditions. And also injured workers. Injured workers represent what happens when we don't have good health and safety programs in place, and when the employer has not met their responsibility, their legal responsibility to provide workplace health and safety programs in their workplace that prevent these injuries and illnesses from happening. So involving those people directly is a very, very powerful way to share our story. And I'm gonna end my part of the presentation with this very tragic example of one story. So you're seeing Kiki Ramirez, who was a 16-year-old young worker in Nashville, Tennessee, that fell from a very high a high work area in the construction of a building in Nashville, Tennessee. And as tragic as this is and was for the family, and the family has spoken out about sort of how this was such a preventable thing. But it's the kind of story that motivates us to action and to say, this is not acceptable. This cannot continue to happen. We have to do more to protect all workers, and that those demands need to be in everything that we do in terms of translating this remembrance and memorializing workers like Kiki and the thousands and thousands of other workers and hundreds of thousands of workers that are injured, and thousands of workers that are killed, and translate that into making things better in the future. So for the next part, Brittany Jenkins is going to continue on our program. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. And so just continue where Peter left off, as we are during Workers' Memorial, as we are memorializing our family members, making sure that we're doing this and calling for action for change. These employers are responsible for this, and there should be responsible in making sure it doesn't happen again. Many times during different ceremonies, you hear the phrase that family members don't want this to happen to someone else's son, brother, cousin, friend. If it's preventable, that they get the training that they need, that they have the protections that they need. And so making sure, like, well, in the midst of us memorializing and talking about these very tragic stories that happen to people who have been killed or have been injured at work, that we are calling to action for change. Go to the next slide. Here's another example where a mother is speaking out about her son's tragedy, but in doing so, making sure that we're also inviting other people into the community, be that other organizations, legislation, to help make it change in our movement. This is the mother, and in the background, you can see different legislators from the Houston area listening to her, because she is asking them to make sure that there is change so that this doesn't happen to the next person's child. Next slide. Here again, this is really big for us. One of our worker groups, Face Justicia, did a big worker memorial program back in 2018, talking about everyone who lost their lives during that time, which led to a worker protection program that was launched. They highlighted 100 workers that were who passed away in the Houston area. Were very good at letting them know that these are the only ones that are on record. There are more that we did not hear about, and this doesn't even include the people who were injured. And so next slide. And again, making sure that we're doing this, that we're not doing it alone. It's not just a single person. Please continue to not individualize this, to do this as a community, as you make your Worker Memorial events and programs, marches, protests, that you do it together as a group. And so now we're going to move on to some of the COSH demands. We want to let you guys to know, to just start thinking about from now until Worker Memorial Week is going to come fast, to just continue to think and how we can work collectively. There are a lot of different opportunities for an individual or collective action targeted at employers, policymakers, and the general public. And so here are a few of the caution demands, which is, again, Peter mentioned, establish worker health and safety committees in every workplace, being able to spot those worker safety, health and safety issues with a committee is very good for them to be able to talk to an employer, to have actions change. Being vocal about it is not an accident. An injury to one is an injury to all. All worker injuries are preventable. And so making sure workers have justice now. And then end discrimination and retaliation against workers, raising safety concerns. If the workers can't speak out about an issue because they're scared to lose their job, these issues can result into tragedies that were preventable. And so now that we kind of went over some of the demands we have, I'm going to pass it back to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Brittany and Peter, for that very important overview. So again, this was just a refresher for many of you. If this is a new space for you, you hope that you understood a bit more why we come together during Workers' Memorial Week and what our demands are every year. Every year we seek for a theme that re-energizes us. And I think I want to underscore the importance of establishing worker leadership through a health and safety committee as a means to mobilize workers, to empower them, and to take ownership and demand access to their rights. So I'm now going to, we're now going to move into sharing a little bit about the resources and tools that we have available for you at National COSH. I'm going to invite my colleague Caitlin Parody to help us navigate the resources. I'd like everyone to please pay particular attention. You will be navigating, we will be inviting you to take a look at our website, and that later on you navigate it on your own time to learn it a little bit more and how it works. But with that said, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. So I'm about to drop a link in the chat. Like Jessica said, we have a really beautiful new website thanks to Jesse and Susie. And we're really excited that this year we're able to share all of the tools for you, whether you're planning an action at your workplace, organizing an event in your community, right on a little mini Workers' Memorial Week homepage. So hopefully you've seen by now, this is our website. And for folks who want to use the website in Spanish, we have this little button here. It's on every page. Just click on it and you'll get the complete, version of the website in Spanish. Whether you're in English or in Spanish, you can go right here at the top, or we dropped that direct link in the Zoom to your Worker Memorial Week homepage here. And again, you can just toggle language right there. So here's our little homepage for you. And we've tried to give you everything we can to really make your Workers' Memorial Week, efforts to escalate your campaigns, bring attention to losses in your community, hold employers accountable, raise awareness, all of that as easy as possible for you. And so we have sort of 6 types of resources. The first one, many of you will be familiar with, is our Killed at Work database. This is our community's effort to document and map the annual toll of workers who die on the job, including people's names, their employers, what happened, where it happened, all of that. Right now, as you see on this page, you really can see past data up through the end of 2021. So we're working on getting the information in here for deaths on the job from 2022. That'll be added as it's available. You can also make reports from what's happened in your own community here, or you can always be in touch with, Jesse or myself or Peter, really anyone on our team, to send us information about folks who've been killed on the job who you want to make sure are memorialized in this database. And we'll be sure to really let you know when this 2022 data is available. You'll be able to click and it'll look something like this. And we can also help you figure out how to get information that's really specific to your area downloaded and out of here. So that's the database. Here, the second thing is maybe one of the most important pieces that we have here, and this is really tools for workers. So, we want to be reminding everybody we have a lot of beautiful public events, but the workplace is also a key site of action for Workers' Memorial Week. And we want to give you, lots of ways that you can survey, your coworkers, survey your workplace to identify hazards, report them to bosses, propose health and safety committees, all of that good stuff. So right here, if you click, this is a model health and safety complaint. And we also have a model letter for establishing a workplace health and safety committee. And we have tools to help you if you want to get some press attention to your actions, as well as sample Workers' Memorial Week reports. And again, just a reminder, oops, sorry guys, you don't need to see my updates. There we go. Just a reminder that you can, from any page, you can click here and access all of these exact same resources in Spanish. All right, so if we, clicked too far back, but if we go here, we also have ideas for Workers' Memorial Week actions. There's tons of inspiration here, lots of ideas about events that you can hold in person, digital local events, lots of different ideas. And they'll, you're going to hear more on the call today. And then the final thing I wanted to just go to here is we will have, I'm not going to click into these, but there's 3 other things here. First is the Dirty Dozen report. So you can nominate Dirty Dozen employers from this page, and you can also see all the past reports to give you an idea of how people talked about their employers and their bosses in their campaigns. And then the final 2 things that folks are hopefully pretty familiar with now are we have a listing of local events. So there's a way here for you to tell us about your local event so we can get it on the map so people in your community might find it here. And then our family resource guide, which we encourage everyone to be sharing with the family members of people who've been killed at work. So that's our little resource guide. The one thing we're not putting on the resource guide, but we do want to share with you all, are some key messages for Workers' Memorial Week this year, some key talking points. We're keeping these a little more internal and not publishing them on the website, but I will drop them in the chat right now. So those are our resources, and let us know if you have any questions as you access them, and I will pass it back to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, for that overview, which is very helpful. Again, folks, I really, really highly encourage you to visit, go to each link on your own. If you're thinking about doing an event, if you're thinking about maybe sharing this with your organization and saying, hey, we could build a campaign, or we can, do a call to action that supports and amplifies our current campaigns and projects, let's go to this website. Tons of resources available in English and Spanish for you to use, whether it's a report, media, as Caitlin said, or whether you want to do a vigil, and we'll get to hear more about it. So I'm going to stop. I get really excited about all the possibilities around Workers' Memorial Week, But I do want to now move forward and share with you all a couple of local events. I had shared that we invited 2 of our affiliates of National Kosh, both SoCal Kosh and Workers Dignity. We're going to first hear from the Southern California Kosh Group based in Los Angeles, but they are expanding to the Inland Empire, Orange County, doing all sort of nice organizing and mobilization and education of their workers and campaigns that they support. It's a beautiful coalition that consists of workers' centers, unions, community organizations throughout Southern California. So I'm going to now invite Ayan Ortega, who is their digital organizer and a fabulous supporter of our national network. If you bear with me, Ayan, if you can unmute yourself, but I'm going to share my screen shortly so I can show the slides that you prepared. So bear with me, but you can unmute yourself as I'm setting this.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. Hi, everybody. My name is Ayan Ortega with SoCal Kosh. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you find yourselves. I'm really excited to share some of the work that we did last year during Worker Memorial Week. We are, as Jessica was mentioning, we're based in Southern California. At the moment, we do work now between Los Angeles, the Inland Empire, and Orange County. So we have kind of grown our network out in the past few years. And last year, we really had a chance to kind of express through this Workers' Memorial Week. It was an opportunity to really show out what our networks are looking like, or start to begin growing our networks, and bring people together around this event and this week of memorializing workers who have passed. But I want to start by showing a little bit of what we did for Los Angeles. So you'll see here, this is the Workers' Memorial Day event that we had in LA. We were working on a community mural throughout the year leading up to Workers' Memorial Day, and we finished painting it maybe a month or 2 before April. So we decided that it would be a great opportunity to kind of combine the unveiling of this mural, all the work that we put into it, along with Workers' Memorial Day. The mural itself, the topic was around the pandemic and the workers who we had lost through the pandemic. The theme itself, the kind of tagline that we put together for the mural was, we are all connected, protecting workers protects our world. And then it kind of contained a lot of rights that people have, like the right to know, the right to act. You can kind of see people are holding signs on the side of the mural. And so we worked with 2 artists. One was Claudia Palacios in LA, and the other Akela Bird-Green from the Inland Empire, to put this mural together. And then on the day of Workers' Memorial Day, we threw this kind of DIY street party. It was a ton of fun. It was really like a collection, like bringing together our network. We had a partner organization. They let us borrow this like huge truck with all this like sound equipment. And then the band you see here is the Los Jornaleros del Norte, which is the day laborers of the North, that they come together through the National Day Labor Organizing Network. So it was a huge kind of like just bringing our partner orgs together, and also put together like a vigil for the day. We had many speakers from different worker organizations, workers themselves who experienced loss during the pandemic. And so it was a really great day, really kind of combining this morning with the celebration. And we also had poets, local poets from LA and the Inland Empire. Kind of between having the worker testimonies, we would have a poet or an artist speak about their creative work. And it was a really great balance between the really heavy, somber moments with some kind of creative energy as well. And here we have pictures of our Inland Empire event. This was, again, just a mixture of workers and advocates from different worker organizations. This one was more of a vigil. So we put together this kind of altar for workers. This was in San Bernardino. And so this one was more so what you might typically see with Workers' Memorial Day, but it was also, again, a really great opportunity to bring together different people from the network into the work. And so we had family members and coworkers who passed away from COVID speak. we had a California state senator, we had a council member from San Bernardino, and various different worker organizations present. And we also were able to collaborate with Yvette Poblano from the Inland Empire. So she started this memorial called the Yellow Heart Memorial, where she allows people to write names of people who have been lost due to COVID on these yellow hearts, and then pasting them around. So like it becomes kind of like a big mural of yellow hearts with all these names on them. And so we were able to collaborate with her on this day to share, to really kind of combine efforts, but also to combine the messaging together. And then for the next one, we have Orange County. In Orange County here, we have, again, combining different worker organizations, bringing folks together. The effort here was more so around a proclamation. And so what we did was, Sylvia Hernandez, our organizer trainer based in Orange County, brought together these different worker organizations to go to the city council in Santa Ana to say that we need to recognize this day, this Workers' Memorial Day, throughout the city, so that workers can be memorialized, so that we can acknowledge the plight that workers are facing in our industries in the city. And so this was kind of a first for Santa Ana, and also a first for us at SoCal Kosh, bringing together these organizations in Orange County. And so I think these are kind of like three different kind of manifestations of Workers' Memorial Day, but I think I really want to highlight that the goal, one of the important pieces is to also just bring people together to build community, right? And I think that this last example of what Sylvia did in Orange County is a really prime example of how bringing people together around a certain cause allows people to build that community. And I think Sylvia was able to do that wonderfully. And as a last kind of offer, I just want to share for Inland Empire, we wanted to just share like a template of putting together a program. So I just shared in the chat. This is a kind of template for what it might look like logistically to break down a program, maybe like minute by minute or speaker by speaker, so that in case it might help others build out their day for Workers' Memorial Day. So yeah, I just wanted to offer that as well. But if anyone has any questions or any thoughts, and I feel like I could talk about each of our Workers' Memorial Days forever.
I know. Thank you so much, Ayan, for that wonderful overview. And it's pretty amazing and super encouraging that this is a small organization in Southern California. It's small but powerful to be able to organize, 3 events in the same week. I had the pleasure to participate in the LA event last year, which was beautifully done to incorporate the arts, community, and also this beautiful program, really highlighting the changes that we need, but also encouraging the leadership of the local Kosh group. So thank you so much, Ayan, for that, and for that overview, and for all the beautiful photos that you've shown here. If you could stick around in case folks have any questions, that would be great. We're gonna now move on to our next group, and I'm gonna switch to Spanish.
We're going to present you with the group that's called Dignidad Obrera, or Workers' Dignity, in Nashville. And we have Julio Fernandez, who is an organizer with Dignidad Obrera. But I want to mention something important before Julio presents to us. I want to talk about the process of the Memorial Week. Some of the organizers in our network are not only busy organizing these events, they are in their communities, talking with workers every single day, speaking with their family members every single day. And Julio is one of those organizers. Just a few days ago, we were on the phone and he gave me the very sad news that a worker named Marvin Galindo, who was only 37 years old, originally from Guatemala, he died due to negligence on a construction site. just this last week, last Monday on January 26th, this happened in the morning. This is a man who had 4 children and a wife, and he had only been in the United States for a month. So I want to mention this because the reason why we do this week is because of this sad reality. And the construction industry is one of the most dangerous industries where the majority of workers pass away and where there are a lot of Latino workers in particular in this industry. So Julio, even having received this news and talking to the family members and talking to the community, even so, he's with us today to talk to us a little bit about what they do. And I'm very sorry, Julio, for what happened to this friend of yours. And we hope that these kinds of stories don't happen again, don't repeat themselves. You're cutting out, Julio. We see you, but maybe your connection isn't very good, Julio. Can you hear me? If you want, Julio, you can turn your camera off, so maybe the connection will be better that way. Okay, is this better? Yes, we can hear you. Okay, first of all, I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm an organizer with Dignidad Obrera, and I'm in the house of one of our members. This person is named Andres, and this person went on strike this Thursday because of racism and abuse in the workplace. And they were able to negotiate this morning, and the boss is ready to do everything. And we were talking about this situation just now, but in Nashville, for those of you who don't know, Nashville is a city that is growing. In 2016, I was in Minnesota and I came back to Nashville. No, I'm sorry, in 2015. There's too much work to be done. And because there's so much work, there's a lot of movement of workers all of the time. And at the same time, there are a lot of accidents and a lot of deaths. I started working with Dignidad Obrera, Workers' Dignity, in 2019, at the end of 2019. No, it was in June of 2019. And one of the things that we are doing is creating the Committee of Construction Workers. And we're talking about the importance of health and safety. We've had members who have been affected, who have lost family members. We talk about Gustavo Ramirez, who's a 16-year-old young person who shouldn't be working on a construction site, especially on the weekends without supervision. And because he wasn't trained and because he was young, he fell down, he had an accident because of negligence, because they didn't give him the protective equipment that he needed. And with the committee, we've been working on this and we've connected a lot of different family members. You can see in the photos here. Last year, we were able to connect the family members of 5 workers who you can see there. Their names are Gustavo Ramirez, 16 years old, Pedro Marleva, who died on November 11th of 2021. And we're in the house of Denver Chavez, who passed away April 4th of 2021. He was 18 years old. So we've had 2 young people who have died. There was somebody else, it cut out, who died in 2021. The person in charge left him alone, and they found him 2 days later. They didn't know that he was there. And Hiriel Martinez, who is from Honduras, he died on January 11th. It cut out, the interpreter did not hear. So we have focused a lot on popular education. We share our experiences. And this has been a very special process. There's been a lot of dignity. So we did a day of preparations to talk about the issue. This wasn't something that was very common, but to see the family members of these workers who also have wage theft struggles and also, workers' compensation struggles, and connecting with the families, to the children, the sons and daughters, the brothers and sisters. In fact, a woman named Maria, it's cutting out, the interpreter did not hear. So now we are working on a Bill of Rights, and the issue of security is one of the most important parts of this. We had a march and it was very exciting and motivating because all of the family members came. The children of Armando, who died in Memphis, people came from Houston, from Dallas, they came all the way here because they saw that we are working on the issue of worker deaths and they wanted to participate in this walk that started in the morning. And we did a press conference. We talked about the fact that these things shouldn't be happening anymore and that we're going to continue growing and carrying on the message that these kinds of abuses in the workplace shouldn't happen. And that same night, after being in front of the legislative building, we walked throughout the whole city. We played music. Julio? Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're cutting off a little bit. You're kind of going in and out. Okay, so we did this march throughout the whole city, starting from a certain point to get to the Legislative Plaza. But then we stopped at different emblematic places throughout the city, specifically in downtown. We stopped in front of this museum where it's very rare to see protests, especially protests about workplace deaths. And a lot of people died of COVID, and some people gave testimony about how they've been treated. Then we did a vigil in front of the workplace where Pedro Maleva died. He left behind 3 children, and we were there until midnight, and it was very emotional because we brought all the communities. We brought faith communities, the African American community, and we were outside of the construction project, which is at a very elegant place where there are lots of restaurants and etc. And we were in front of this construction site where Pedro died. And there we committed to keep going and to not be quiet, to not be silent. And a few local representatives of the council representatives or council members were present. And this was very emotional. And we had never done anything like this before. And this was also what helped spark the effort to grow our committees and to incorporate health and safety into our workshops. We don't want these things to continue happening, but we know that workers are more united now than before. And we are helping to play the role of connecting people, bringing people together, and we are elaborating a letter of demands, a list of demands, but also hearing the stories and the testimonies of the family members and the workers. That's what is making the work stronger. So Workers' Dignity, or Dignidad Obrera, is doing everything that we have to do to connect people. And primarily to get the trust of the families, because you know, a lot of times the message is, oh, go find a lawyer and you'll get a lot of money. And so any lawyer will approach these families, but this doesn't create change in the long term. And we don't want the lawyers to block the community processes. I mean, legal processes are important, but it's important to know who caused the harm and to expose them. Thank you so much, Julio, for that summary of everything that you have done to organize yourselves for this event. I want to highlight that Julio mentioned the importance of doing outreach to workers. He mentioned the families, do surveys, developing committees, do marches or walks. But I want to highlight the level of art that we are seeing. There are beautiful signs and posters, very colorful posters. It's very obvious that they have organized the entire community, empowered that community. And all of this process of organizing, ensuring that the people direct that sadness, in some cases, that feeling that we have when somebody dies, when there's an injustice, into something positive, into some kind of change. So thank you so much, Julio. I know that it's been a very heavy week for you and a very busy week accompanying the family of this worker. These are just some examples of the beautiful things that can be done during this week. We also wanted to mention the importance of developing committees. You know, we can organize an event or a family. It's nice to organize volunteers who can be part of these committees, who can help develop the events of this Memorial Week. And if it's the first time that you are hearing about this week, we don't want you to think, oh, I have to organize this huge event with thousands of people and a lot of visuals. No, bit by bit, we can do a smaller action, and every year we can build on it and we can grow. Just like Ayan was saying, the week in Los Angeles started with just one event. And now that they've been doing this for various years, they do it in different places across California. And so we want to inspire all of you to do the same thing. And we hope that these examples have inspired you to take action. What we're going to do right now is pass it over to Brittany, who is going to give us some instructions to talk amongst ourselves about how we get inspired and how we are going to organize our events. Brittany?
So thank you, everyone. So now is the time where we will be breaking off into small groups. So if you didn't rename yourself at the beginning, or you came into the member, please do so now, or you're going to hold back so we can put you in rooms that you feel most comfortable by language. So what we're going to do, if you hit the next slide, is break off into small groups. In those small groups, we're going to ask everyone to just do a brief introduction, because we're only going to have about 15 minutes to discuss with each other. In that introduction, you can also talk about your experience with Workers' Memorial Week. And then there's a question we want everyone to discuss, and which is, how are you inspired to engage in Worker Memorial Week to support workers' campaigns and actions and demands for stronger protections? So you're going to go ahead and break off. I'm going to also drop in the chat the notes for that you guys will be taking for that. Let me put that down there. So you should, in the chat, there should be a document here you guys can use to write your ideas for the discussion. So, and Jesse, are you ready to kind of break everyone out to groups?
Yes.
You know what, if you give us just 1 minute, I think that link isn't working as a hyperlink. So I'm just gonna drop the full Google Doc link in. So just 1 second. Sure. All right, there it is. That should work for folks.
Thanks, Caitlin.
All right.
right, perfect. So I'm gonna send you all to your breakout rooms right now. So see you in 15 minutes.
See you guys in 15 minutes.
Recuerden aceptar la invitación a los grupos pequeños. Nos vemos en 15 minutitos. Francisco, ¿qué idioma prefieres? También tú, Blanca. Janet, ya te mandé a una nada más. Creo que le tienes que poner aceptar. Blanca y Francisco, ¿me escuchan?
Español o inglés, cualquiera. Francisco.
Francisco, ok, perfecto. Listo. Lauren, ya te mandé a una. Lauren, I already sent you to a room, but I think you need to accept the invitation. Or you can go to the little button of breakout rooms.
Jesse, can I pause the recording?
Like quickly, let's debrief. I'm going to offer the opportunity that everyone who would like to come off the mic right now and talk about what you discussed in your groups.
I could share a little bit about from our group. We had Renee from SoCal College, Craig from Midstate, Jeanette, and Marcy, and myself. We were talking a little bit about just kind of feeling that we're in the beginning stages of starting to plan out our respective Workers' Memorial Day events or Workers' Memorial Week events. And as part of it, I think being at this beginning stage, trying to engage our network and the workers that we are connected with to see what would folks like to do, rather than coming up with an idea like right now and sticking to that plan, which could also be a valuable approach, but maybe also considering like just engaging the people that we're connected with. Also thinking about just the reality that we're coming out of 3 years or nearly 3 years of a pandemic, and these considerations of like having it in person or virtual, doing something in person to have that, that in-person feeling of being with others, and feeling people's presence over doing it virtual. Both have their pros and their cons. We talked about doing Jeanette was involved in doing breakfasts and bringing in advocates, workers, unions, worker centers, state folks, also state agencies to come together to start talking about worker protections and just the conditions of workers through this event. I think it's also a really great idea. And we also talked about just like the data that's available or not available of all the workers who have passed. We know that this is a reality, that this is happening, but sometimes the data, it's hard to find. So yeah, this is kind of like we're also, I think, at really like a kind of like embryo stage for this.
Thank you, Ian, for sharing. Did anyone else want to share? I see a lot of good things in the doc. I know from my group, Tanya from National OSHA has let us know that they'll be having a virtual memorial event on April the 27th, with the theme is every worker is more than a number. If I made a mistake in that, Tanya, feel free to correct me.
It actually is going to be in person and will be live streamed. So we're going to
in person live
of both ways. Yes.
So, and did anyone else at the time want to just share their Worker Memorial event, or how helpful it was if you hadn't had an event planned yet, to just kind of hear back from everyone else.
One issue that came up in our group was to try to make materials available in as many languages as possible. That you know, we've done so well with having materials and events in both English and Spanish, and sometimes some presentations that have been done in more languages. And so especially materials, you know, might be able to be available in different languages for more groups to be sort of engaged with.
Yeah, I can share the Connecticut. We do 3 events this year. One that's been going on since the very first year of Workers' Memorial Day. It's a candlelight vigil at 6 a.m. We speak at that one. They get politicians, union folks. I generally speak at that one. It's in my hometown. Then at 10 a.m., AFSCME Council 4 does one. It's more of a smaller to remember their folks that have passed. They don't publicize it much. It's mainly just a handful of folks from AFSCME. We get about 70 or 80 people show up at the ground one. And then at noontime is the Hartford, the AFL-CIO jointly does it with the Connecticut. And again, they get politicians and others. And we have an essay contest for high school students that we get donations so that they can get, the first place is $1,500, and then $1,000 for second and $500 for third. And last year, extra money was donated, so we gave $500 for fourth, I believe, as well. And it's, the topics are about safety related or unionizing. One of them is about like Starbucks organizing this year is one of the choices. And the theme this year is more about how do we get young people involved in the health and safety movement? Who's going to take over the world when we're all gone? And get more young folks involved in taking it forward. But that's what's going on in Connecticut. And I know Deborah Williams and Nat were in our group too, and a couple of folks from OSHA, Justine and her boss, Lauren, if they'd want to pipe up or not.
If not, that's okay. So thank you guys for sharing with each other your ideas and helping someone else maybe brainstorm. I can't wait to see all the great events and programs you guys put out during Workers' Memorial Week. At this time, I'm going to pass it back to Jessica to close us out.
Thanks so much, Brittany. And thanks everyone for those really great discussions, very inspiring. And very encouraging. I love to hear stories where folks are started off with a small event and now are saying we're going to grow it even bigger. We're going to invite more people. So that's really, really great. If you could bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen again. I want to show a couple of slides with a couple of really important announcements. So hope you can stay around a couple more minutes. So just as a reminder, as to why we're here together today is that we want to remind everyone in our network and beyond that we stand in solidarity with injured workers and families as a network, that our campaigns are not possible and are not inspired without the families and workers. We're every year inspired and use this space as a refresher to re-energize ourselves in our struggle and in our work to demand worker justice. And this is really an opportunity to escalate and take action to raise our voices for safe jobs. But with that said, I also want to recognize the importance that at these events, we're able to find the intersection on how we connect other issues that impact workers, which is, it can include wage and hour issues. It can include racial justice, economic justice, really being able to integrate all these issues that do not function in silos. They all sort of work together, impact the same communities together. So that's very important. I did mention this to a couple of folks in my group in particular, is that National COSH every year releases the Dirty Dozen report. And if you've never heard of it, what it is that we request nominations, and nominations are open now, for some of the most of, for folks to submit nominations of some of the worst employers in the country that refuse to improve working conditions that lead to safer workplaces. We have released a report every year, and we have folks nominate an employer from across the country. Amazon has made that list in the past. We've had small employers. We had a group, and I'll share a photo shortly of Refresco, which many of you are on our listservs have maybe heard of that campaign. Many employers. And we will release this report on Wednesday, April 26th. But the reason I'm sharing this with you now is because we need your nominations. So I'm going to ask the folks in our team to share that link in the chat. You might have thrown it out already. How you can nominate a bad employer. If you know that there's a persistent employer that is not refusing to take action to improve working conditions, that does not provide training for workers and not provide the right policies, the right personal protective equipment for workers to ensure safe, healthy working conditions, you need to nominate this employer, because this is our way of putting public pressure to these bad employers and making sure that they create change. So again, this report will be released on this date. So mark your calendars. On April 26th, we will be releasing this event. And I wanted to share with you here, oh, I think I skipped the slide. Bear with me, these have a mind of their own. Right here, you have a photo of one of the campaigns that we included, or their employer, we included in the Dirty Dozen report. You know, again, this was a company that is called Refresco. They're a recycling bottling company. And it's a great way, again, the Dirty Dozen is a great way to boost your campaign, engage workers and allies, and keep public pressure on employers who are failing to provide a safe working environment. We were able to feature them in our Worked Up online platform that highlights ongoing struggles for workplace justice. It's a bottling company in New Jersey, as I had mentioned. The photo in the middle is one of the leaders of the Refresco, one of the worker leaders there, and they're bargaining their first contract. Due to the ongoing public pressure and the support that we've been able to give these workers, we did an online petition that we sent to their corporate headquarters in New York City. They started to pay attention. And again, as a success in the immediate, they were able to bargain their first contract. So again, this is the power in numbers. This is how we support each other in these campaigns. So again, submit those nominations for Dirty Dozen, and we look forward to supporting your efforts. I do want to also mention our next teach-in, which is scheduled to happen March 23rd. Mark your calendars at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. We're also going to be sharing that link on the chat. And the title of that workshop is Using Data to Power Your Health and Safety Campaign. So again, how is it that we can find information that supports our campaigns? How can we seek statistics that support, but also putting names to those statistics as an important piece of sharing data. So again, that'll be scheduled March 23rd. And lastly, I want to make sure that I do a quick encouragement that everyone follow us on social media. It's National Kosh. We're National Kosh on Instagram. We're National Kosh on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all social media platforms, on YouTube. You can find a lot of these resources, and we lastly encourage you to visit our website to navigate. But before you log off, we still have 2 minutes. So I think, team, we were very successful in closing this out. We're going to show a quick poll where we want your feedback on how you found this session helpful. Now, we understand with a poll, it sometimes doesn't provide a lot of information. If you want to give us more information of how we can improve our programs or comments, include it in the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see that poll show up. And we want to know how useful you found this session. But if you want to give us more direct feedback, please use the Google Doc at the bottom and add any comments as necessary in English and Spanish, okay? So giving folks a couple seconds for that poll of how you found this program useful or not. or semi-useful is very important. Thank you so much, everyone. So again, appreciate everyone who participated in this program. Again, shout out to our network. Thank you, Julio and Ayan, for sharing the amazing work you do locally. And again, a shout out to the National Cash team who makes these programs possible, and everyone else in our network. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We hope everyone has a great day and that you're inspired to be involved in Workers' Memorial Week.
Yes. Thank you.
Gracias a todos. Gracias por participar. Esperamos que salió inspirado. And thank you to our wonderful interpreters. Thank you so much, Beth and Flor, for helping us out today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Muchas gracias a
everybody. Have
todos,
a
que estén
great-
muy bien. Gracias,
Adiós,
Jessy
muchas
Cruz, gracias, Jessica Martínez y a Todín, gracias a todos por estar con nosotros y enseñarnos cada día más. Gracias.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Take care. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. Pleasure
Muchas
meeting you
gracias a
all.
todos.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Jessica Martínez, le quería pedir si por favor me incluyen los correos para que me mande las invitaciones para participar.
Claro que
Sí.
sí. Es que la confundí. Su nombre dice Manuel, pero usted.
Sí, pero
¿Cuál
yo
es su nombre?
soy Olga Castillo. Yo soy Olga Castillo y le mandé ahí mi correo.